Kristin, happy Mother's Day.
Hey.
How was your weekend?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It was so nice. I got to enjoy a lovely meal and some girl time and of course shopping with not only my mom, but my daughter who made me a mom. So it was really special.
Doesn't get any better than that.
It sure doesn't.
That's
And
awesome.
speaking of moms, you did a wonderful job, as you always do, talking again about your mom and some words of, let's call it wisdom that have
I
stuck
don't know.
around a little bit.
So, yeah, readers, you're going to get an entire month of my mother, or what I am calling Season of the Forest, because it's May, right? And
Right?
it is the season at Disneyland. And, it's great to celebrate Mother's Day, the second Sunday in May. But again, my mother was a force of nature, and one day was never going to be enough. So I'm going to be writing about her all month long. The first article was her infamous phrase, a place for everything and everything in its place.
Everything
She was
in its place.
obsessed with cleanliness and organization. And then this week was the kitchen is closed. And that article took a little bit of a different turn for me because while that was all about food, and you eat breakfast when it's breakfast time, and you eat lunch when it's lunch time, and you eat dinner when it's dinner time. And my mom, for like forever, wasn't any bigger than a bird, which meant like almost no one
Ugh,
ever ate because if she wasn't hungry, you couldn't be hungry. That's a whole nother conversation.
that's just crazy.
What I realized is it was really about boundaries.
Mm,
And, just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should do something. And I'm learning that lesson all over again in my current entrepreneurial career because I can get up whenever and I can work whenever and I have a ton of freedom. What I don't have is a ton of discipline. And my mother recognized that early on as I wrote about this week. My grandmother, she made the best scrambled eggs.
mm.
And I got dropped off at her house one morning. And I don't know that that was the first time she made me scrambled eggs, but apparently, as the story was repeated to me again and again and again, I just kept handing my plate back to her more, 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 more until she ran out of approximately a dozen eggs. I mean, what
Oh my
3-year-old goes through
gosh.
a dozen eggs? I do. And then more recently, and I say recently, this happened about 10 years ago, and people can't believe that any one person could do this. But yeah, I ate through an entire box of Nestle Drumsticks. And I don't mean box of 4, I don't even mean box of 8. This was
My
a
God.
box of 16 that I had purchased for a team meeting the next morning at the university. And I knew I had a few extras, so it was, safe to have one. And
Mm.
because I didn't close the kitchen, that was my mom's famous phrase, the kitchen is closed. Because I didn't close the kitchen, yeah, I didn't stop until until they were all gone. I think, and I have a friend who said this years ago, the only thing we're ever addicted to is more, and more isn't always good.
No, it is not. And in fact, you can have too much of a good thing.
Absolutely.
And as much as it
Absolutely.
pains us to say, it sounds like not just my mom, which I wrote about on Monday, but your mom was right.
She was. And I don't think as kids we value that, of course, and we certainly
Oh,
don't
no.
appreciate that. But I do think becoming an adult and a responsible member of society, even if you keep your childlike wonder, Walt said, who says we have to grow up, right?
Right.
Is recognizing that more often than not, our moms and our dads have our best interest at heart. And so my
Right.
mom wasn't being cruel. She wasn't being mean. Sure, she had some of her own self interest in mind, but when she was closing the kitchen, she was establishing boundaries, not
Right.
just around food, but in every other area of my life and our household. Where are some areas where you've come to realize, gosh, mom was right?
All of them. Always. The worst part, though, oh gosh, and I wrote about this too. I remember when I was a teenager and my mom would say, I can't wait till you have a daughter just like you. And I would just roll my eyes
Of
and I would
course.
always, yeah, and I would always snap back. Well, I am not going to parent her like you parented me. So that's not going to happen. And of course, I just put the blame back on mom. And what do you know? On, let's see, what's her birthday? April 28th, 2005. A little mini me was born that day. And my mom looked over
Yay,
at me.
Brighton.
Yeah, right? Thank you, Brighton, fulfilling the prophecy. And she looked at me and she goes, "Now it's your turn." And sure enough, I had one just like me. And what's funny when I'm hearing you talk about how your mom was so instrumental in helping you establish boundaries, not because she was trying to be cruel or because she was trying to ruin you, it was because she was loving you and she
Mhm.
wanted to set you off on the right trajectory, whether we liked it or not. And I think my mom, with her being a clean freak, which is what I wrote about on Monday, was that, it was never good enough, right? Like I would try to dust or I would clean the house and had to do these chores, not because I wanted to be a helpful citizen in the household. It was because I knew the only way my butt was going to get out that door to go play is if I did the chores that I needed to that weekend.
I'm just now
And
realizing we're siblings. We had the same mom.
yes. I think it was the generation. I think all the moms were like that at the time period. And, of course, a teenager, my definition of clean was very different than my mom's definition of clean. And so I would go as fast as I could. And, whereas my parents would take the time to make the nice little pattern with the vacuum, I would just go around furniture. I wouldn't lift up chairs. And when it came to dusting, I just went as fast as I could. And, I made a joke, but I was serious. I always thought, who's going to look under the vase? Who's going to move this? If someone happens to come visit, they're not going to be the clean police. But my mom would go around and she would inspect my
She
work.
knew.
If it wasn't up to her standards, then I didn't get to go outside. And I would get so mad and spend so much of my time arguing with her and
Mhm.
fighting with her and rolling my eyes, thinking, what is the point in all of this? And wouldn't you know it, mom was right. Because as I got older and it came time for me to have my own house and I had my own kids, I wanted to impress upon them the importance of having a clean home. And I started to have an even bigger appreciation the more I started to really, fall in love with Disneyland and with Walt Disney and kind of the standard that he set from day one. A lot of people turned up their nose when he said that I'm going to build a theme park, and they're like, "Why would you want to build a theme park? They're gross, they're dirty, they're unkept." And he said, "No, no, no, no. Mine's going to be different. Mine is going to be clean and welcoming and safe." And so the amount of effort that he poured into keeping his park clean, it wasn't to impress anybody on the outside, but it was to establish a sense of cleanliness and safety
Mhm.
and security on the inside. And that just kind of had a domino effect. And
Yeah,
my
your
mom
outer
was doing the
world
same
is a
thing.
reflection of your inner world.
Bingo. And that goes to weight loss, that goes to weight gain, that goes to eating umpteen ice
Hey,
cream
hey,
cones and
hey.
drumsticks. Just say, in case any of our listeners forgot, it was the big box, the Costco's.
It was indeed the big box.
Yeah.
Establishing, like, those standards, right?
Right.
And having expectations for yourself. And I think, the challenge of, the world we live in today is nobody wants to have a standard. Nobody thinks there should be any sort of
Right.
expectation.
Anything
And
goes.
yeah, and I get that that can be overwhelming. I am overwhelmed by it from time to time. It's also, I believe, an opportunity to excel
Mm,
because, um, you know, I grew up in a world where it appeared as though most people were trying to put their best foot forward, and now, like you said, anything goes. So just a little bit of effort registers, right, and gets you on the radar, and
right.
so there's a huge opportunity there.
Absolutely. So, to all the moms out there, we hope that you had a fantastic Mother's Day. We hope you felt loved and appreciated, even if it takes us a few decades to finally admit it. You were right.
Absolutely, and happy Mother's Day, belated Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and I'm going to sign off because the last thing I did before we sat down to record, per Lindsay's request, was go to the
Mm,
grocery store and get a box of Nestlé Drumsticks, so, I've got dinner and dessert waiting.
nice. Have four for me. All right, guys, that's it for us. We will see you real soon. Thanks for joining us. Nice.